Let's bring in former FBI Special Agent Tracy Walder for a little more insight. Tracy, how significant could this vehicle and the driver of this car be to this case?
Well, thank you for having me, Adrienne. So I think that this could be very significant because the reality is we do have a pretty good timeline of when the murders occurred. So somewhere in the early 3 a.m. timeframe. And as Brian has shown repeatedly, it's a pretty windy, remote road that isn't, passable a lot by many, many cars. And so I think having it narrowed down to this vehicle at this time in that particular area is very significant.
Police have said they're keeping quiet about this case on purpose in order to help catch this killer. How so?
So that's actually something that's extremely typical, although I understand that it's incredibly frustrating, particularly in something like this. You've got 20-year-olds, and a lot of people relate to that or, are. I think part of the problem is that we are really hindered by what we see in pop culture, and that we see that cases are figured out, within 24 hours, or that blood analysis comes back within 15 minutes. And that's just not the case. And so I do think that police, on purpose, for not wanting to damage prosecuting this case, ultimately are staying tight-lipped. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad idea. However, my heart does go out to the victims' families because I would imagine that's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, and just agonizing. It's been several weeks, no leads, apparently. But if the families were to hire private investigators, could that help or hinder this investigation?
So I think it could do both. I think a set of fresh eyes is never necessarily a bad thing. And I understand if I was unfortunately in this situation, I would want to do everything that I could to help solve this case. So I don't necessarily think that a pair of fresh eyes is a bad thing. However, what can happen is that this kind of muddies the waters. If the private investigator is requesting information from police, they have to stop what they're doing and give it to them. And sometimes too many cooks in the kitchen can sometimes be a bad thing, and that people are sort of stepping all over each other.
When a case like this shows no apparent progress, what is the next step for the FBI?
So if a case shows no apparent progress, really the next step, at least what I used to do, was go back and re-interview people. A lot of times, and I think this goes to the discussion that they were having earlier, where we had people who had maybe been cleared and them issuing a statement that they could go back and re-interview them at any time. And I think as evidence emerges, like this White Hyundai, they might go back and start to re-interview some of those people that they have cleared. So I think that's probably what they're doing next.
Thank you, Tracy, as always, for being with us. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.